Welcome everybody to the Hitchhiker's Guide 2. We're going to be doing this in English because we're streaming it online. This is our webcam. And there's some English speaking people here. So every last Thursday of the month we're organizing this. We as Q42 and LessonUp be together organizing this meeting for creative software engineers and other interested people who'd like to learn more about digital product development and innovative technology. So we discuss all kinds of topics, so it changes every month. So sometimes it's about backend. So last month it was about Kubernetes. God knows how they say it. This time it's about scaling your startup. Next time it's going to be about mobile app development. What we have for you tonight is 3 speakers who will talk to you about the challenges that they ran into while scaling their startup and also while being still in startup phase. I think it's going to be great to hear from these 3 very different types of projects, very different types of audiences, and learn from them. I hope they're going to share everything that also didn't work, because that's what we can learn from the most. A couple of basics. My name is Lotte. I'll be hosting tonight, which means that if you have any questions, you can stick up your hand and I will pay attention, hopefully. We're going to start today with 3 presentations, and then we're going to do a Q&A afterwards, and then we're going to end with drinks. If you need to use the bathroom, it's over there around the corner. You will be advised on which bathroom is best to use on the little iPad. We're streaming it live, so I already said that. That's it. Any questions already? No? Great. So this will be the programs. We're going to start with Lex Daniels, and then Kars, Mathijs, and Q&A and drinks. We all know what's going to happen. I guess we'll just start with Lex, who a founder of Relive, which grew immensely over the last 5 years, and is now reaching how many millions of people?
I have to give you a secret.
Oh, well, come over here.
Thanks for having me. It's cool to give this presentation here. Nice that stuff like this happens here in The Hague. Can I just press right and then?
Yeah, it should.
Nice. So this is me in the middle. So I'm Lex, and next to me that's Joris, one of my co-founders, Youssef. I think most of you know Joris because he was around Q42 a lot when he worked at Fabriek. But of course, we got the idea to start Relive and he was out. What is Relive? Relive is an app for everyone who loves to get out there, and I highlighted the everyone and I'll make that more explicit a bit later on. But no matter what you do, if you like to run, ride, hike, whatsoever, Relive is the app that you can use. And then what does it do for you? Well, we help you to capture and share your outdoor activities. I think that's still a bit vague. So what do we actually do? Hey, this is not. Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, that's right. You have to get permission.
Oh.
Sorry.
Is it possible?
I don't know. It's on your Google account, so it says that I'm not allowed to access it.
Okay. Well, then look very closely to these screenshots. No, it's a little bit difficult. So I want to show you the video because the video we made is the thing that people come to for Relive. And if you look very close to the second screenshot, there you see a snapshot of one of those 3D videos we make. So what's happening? You go out for a ride, you go out for a run, you record your location with your phone or with your GPS watch. Along the route you take some photos, you remember some nice moments. In the end, we turn that into an awesome 3D video that lasts around 1 minute, that really shows you what you've been out there, what you've done that day. People really like that, people share those videos. So that's how it started, that's what we built. I wanted to show you one that will come next. So then now I'll take you to the start, so how we got the idea, what we decided to do, what we decided to build. and why. Then I'll take you to the startup phase a bit, and I'll pick one nice example that I think really shows the phases of scaling up, and then that brings us to where we are today. And that's why I wanted to keep the number of users a bit secret. So, this is me in the back. I was a very inexperienced cyclist in the autumn of 2015, and me and some friends. The fun story is that we always say that Joris was there. He wasn't. Joris hates cycling. So this is an insight for you. But Youssef and I were here, and we were at Tenerife, and we were going to cycle the Tide. The Tide is the biggest mountain there is, I think, in Europe. So in the morning we went down all the way to the ocean, took a photo with our wheels in the ocean, in the sand with the bikes and everything. And then we started our way up, and it took us all day, and it was an insane adventure. We had beautiful views, we had flats, we had pizza. It was one big adventure. One of the best days on the bike for me so far. And then what happened at night? We were all looking at those boring apps with a lot of statistics in there, with a lot of flat routes. We were comparing who was fastest on the climb. Well, no one was fast because we had to stop a lot of times to catch our breath, so that wasn't really helping us out. And we figured, okay, this is really boring. So, actual picture again. Over some beers and over barbecue, Youssef and I came up with the idea. We said, okay, we know those videos from the Tour de France where they do a preview. We can make them as well for everyone. We can get your photos in there. Let's do it. Our friends told us, no, you can't. We had 2 laptops, so we started building it there and then. There will be a lot of GIFs for the rest of the presentation. Much later, around 4 months later, we were ready to launch an MVP. When I say an MVP, this was really an MVP, because this was the thing that we launched. We launched a nice website. We had to use the .cc domain because the .com domain was already in use, and the one who had it charged us way too much money to buy it, but we were already hooked on the name Relive, so we decided to go CC, which was okay, because CC is used for cycling club a lot, and back then we were only focused on cycling. Anyway, this was our website. What we did for you, if you clicked that orange button there, we would connect your Relive account to your account from Strava, and then the next time when you go out cycling, we would take your data from Strava, and we would send you an email with a link that contains the video, the one that I was about to show. It didn't. That was it. People then could watch that video, and we figured, okay, people might want to share this, so let's put a few sharing buttons below that video. That's it. Built it in 4 months' time. Over some beers, we launched the website. We paid someone 50 euros for that picture, which is actually a bit of a movie. And we sent this to our friends who were with us on that cycling trip. That's it. Nice project, cool. 2 weeks later, it was basically all over the place. So it didn't take very long before, see him in the bottom, before Lance Armstrong started using it and started advocating it. In the top right, that's also pretty cool. That was a bit of a highlight for, especially for Youssef. Kevin Systrom started using Relive, and actually sent us an email on it as well. So the thing we built really not only worked for us as a group of friends, but we saw that much more people really liked it. So, of course, we were extremely proud. We felt we nailed it. We're done here. Let's do something atypical for Dutch persons, and let's be a bit bold. So at that point, we figured, okay, we're going to build the world's largest outdoor community, and that's what we're still doing today. First step, of course, startup phase. First thing you do as a startup is you need to raise some money, because else you can't build a team, you can't hire an office space and stuff like that. Luckily, we had nice traction early on, so getting funded wasn't too difficult for us. So that happened, all nice, but then the actual stuff started to happen. You took an office space, and then you really realize that you have to do everything from the ground up yourself, which was nice. And a few weeks later, we had a nice office space set up, and we had some people in the team, and we started doing stuff. let's call it like that, because at that point I think everyone was working on everything. It was chaos. We came in the office in the morning, we figured, okay, what feature are we going to build today? And the one who shouted loudest had his way, and that's what we'll be doing the rest of the day.
Still do that today.
So especially as a founder, that felt a bit like we're juggling, we're doing too many things, where there's a lot of motion, but there's not a lot of direction to it. There's need to be some things that we need to balance and stuff like that. It took us a while to figure out, and from now on I'd like to take you through one project that surfaced at Relive a few times, and that I think is a nice example of how you go from startup to being much more of a scale-up. And then I'll try to generalize into some form of lesson I learned from it. So one of the things that's always important for us, probably it's a common theme, is user experience versus cost. And that one was especially true for Relive, because we're a video company, and video is expensive, and if you need to render video fast, it's super expensive. But of course, it's what people want. It's not what we did in the beginning, so I'll take you through a few phases of how we did this. So when we started, this was spring of 2016, we rendered those laptops, of those videos on two laptops, two of Youssef's old laptops. That was how we rendered videos for our users. So when Windows decided to update, Relive was down. So after a few months we did switch to AWS, but we didn't do any scaling on AWS because those instances that you need to render videos are extremely expensive and we didn't have money back then. So on an average weekend it took us 24 hours to get a video to a user. And I think, okay, that's impossible, that's dramatical. No, it wasn't. People were always happy that the video arrived in their email box. 50% of the videos we sent, we got a happy reply from that user back, thanking us for the cool video and that we sent it after all. Back in the day, people thought we made those videos ourselves, so we could get away with it, so that was nice. Didn't last long, of course. So then we fast forward to the summer, and we figured, okay, this cannot, we cannot have this. So we started a bit more elaborate process. It was the process of manual scaling. So what we used to do was, when it was Friday and we were done working, we would just double the amount of instances on AWS we had running, which solved a lot of our problems. We cut the delivery time down to 12 hours in the weekend, which was nice. So fire out. But 50% of the weekends we forgot to scale down those instances again. And that's expensive, so that didn't really work as well. So now we had it okay on the user side, but now we were burning way too much money. So fast forward a bit again, we needed to come up with something a bit more elaborative there. That's when we started automatic scaling. So based on the queue size, we just add instances or drop instances, but we were very deliberate with spending money. So what we had is a scaling rule. Every 5 minutes we check if there's more than 100 videos queuing up to be rendered, we add an instance. If there's not, we slow down. It was a bit better, but still on average we had a 30-minute wait time for those videos. It was quite simple rule, but it was lagging because at that point we also found out that if you spin up an instance, it takes 50 minutes to be working. So it was still not completely okay, but we figured usually 24 hours, it's now 30 minutes, we're happy. But it wasn't the case. At that point we really noticed that our users were no longer the early adopters. These people were way more demanding, so every time that we took more than 5 minutes to deliver a video, people started sending us emails, started sending us messages on Facebook, on WhatsApp, everywhere, complaining that their video was broken and it wasn't there. So that meant our users weren't happy and we needed to get back to the drawing board again. And that's when we figured, okay, this problem has surfaced so often by now.
Yeah, just wondering, are up until this point it's still free users, no paying users at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, free users, still very demanding. Okay, now we've used Amazon's scaling algorithms, they are not working. It's time to do something ourselves. I mentioned that if you spin up an instance, it takes 15 minutes for it to be productive, so we need to start predicting stuff. Luckily, by this time, it's a lot of users, and if you have large numbers, then you have high predictability. So I built a forecasting algorithm that would forecast the load of next hour. And then, if you know that load, you can make some adjustments to the amount of instances you have running. And then you're settled, and that works pretty okay, I think. So at the moment, we still have around 1 minute of waiting time. But it's holding, and by now we're making up to 200,000 videos a day on that same algorithm. So I think that's nice. However, I do feel the next phase coming up again. When I was talking to a potential investor the other day, he told me, "Yeah, 1 minute, that's long. It should be better." So I told him, "Okay, it was 24 hours at some point." Anyway, we're getting to the bit of the overarching theme that I think basically is exemplified by this anecdote, and I think it's really simple, but also difficult. I think what we're seeing at Relive is that more scale is more complexity. So look at that video rendering. It was really simple. It was 2 old laptops. It was working. At the moment, it's difficult scaling algorithms, and I didn't even tell you about the fact that you also need to delete videos in order to keep the cost and values, and to re-render them on smart instances and stuff like that. Things become way more difficult as soon as you scale up, and that's so. It's for the video, it's for the organization, it's for the entire team, it's for the way they launch and iterate and stuff like that. And I think what we have always tried at Relive is to keep the solution to all those problems as simple as possible. So of course, way back in the day, we already knew that at some point we needed some form of scaling algorithm or some smart things, or doing deleting videos or whatsoever. But we didn't do it. We only worked on a problem when it was the biggest problem that was there at that point. And that really helped us keep focus, and that's still something that we really try to drill down with everything we do right now. And I think that's also why one of the values we have, and actually this is the only value that everyone can state. If you just ask them, okay, what are our values? This is the only one that everyone always can tell from their heads, and it's climb the right mountain. So focus, only do the thing that matters most. And I think that's really important. That at the end, I think made Relive or is some element that helped build Relive into the scale that it is right now. So that's the number I promised, I think. So today, so a little over 5 years time, we've grown the business to 40 million users. We're a 40-person team, which I think still quite small for the size of Relive, and it's growing pretty fast. So I was just asked the question, how was Corona for Relive? Just like for you guys, it was pretty epic. So we doubled in revenues and users and everything last year, and that growth is still continuing. And that's why we are scaling up again. So in 2 years' time, we aim to be at 100 million users. Trying to add 100 people to the team. That's definitely the next scaling issue that we didn't solve by now. So it's a work in progress. Thanks.
So you have 40 million users. Are those like every month, so monthly active, or somewhere in your system?
No. These are people that create an account.
Yeah.
In the end, we do see that a lot of people drop off. So staying fit and going out there is difficult. So we do need to help them have those habits. No, so around a little over 2 million people are monthly active on Relive.
Still.
Ah.
Impressive.
Thanks.
We do have time for another question, so if you do have one burning right now.
What is your payment model?
Yeah, nice. So those videos were expensive, and we did get a nice round of funding in early on. But when we saw a burn rate of around 50K, I got a bit nervous, and then we decided to go for just a subscription model. So then we figured, okay, people at that point still needed to wait around 30 minutes for a video, and we just solved the fact that people who paid were first in queue, and some other features that we had lying around, and that really worked from day one, and that's helped Relive to grow to where we are today, with still that only first investment.
How much do you pay monthly to Amazon? It must be a lot, right?
Yeah, but it's also a thing where we spent a lot of energy on, so we kept it stable. So I think the cost of rendering and hosting a video, we definitely sliced that in 10, if not more, but still there's around 100,000 euros a month going that direction.
Nice. Might smoke it from you there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Cool. Let's leave the next questions for after the next speakers. Thank you very much, Lex. Kars is up next. We're going to ask you as well what you are paying to Amazon these days. Maybe you can start with that. Kars is the founder of LessonUp, which grew out of Q42. And I know you've been pretty busy during COVID.
Yeah, it lasts I think all of us,
Yeah, well, tell us your story.
All right, thanks. All right, let's see, is it already connected? All right, a few minutes on LessonUp, so it's nice to share. I think most of you already know me and us, so it's, I think there's 10 people not connected yet, so I'll try to be brief but elaborate on this one. LessonUp, this is what we do. We want to help teachers be awesome. So a little about me. I think software engineering is the coolest job in the world. Sorry if you can't code, you might be a manager or something else, but engineering is just awesome, and that's really something I strongly believe is the coolest job in the world. I'm already 46, so I'm way old and old-fashioned. I still know Diesel and Golden and stuff like that. Founder of Q42 and LessonUp. And these are my main things in life that happened. At 83, I got a Commodore 64. 2000, we started Q42, and 2015, LessonUp. So I like to engineer. So something about the team. We're right now 27 people, right, Kelly?
Yep.
Yep, so that's a lot. Kind of like sales, marketing, and customer success, that's 11 people in total. Tech and product together, about 11. And on the overhead, there's 5. So together, this is kind of what the team is right now. And before COVID, we were only 7. So we grew with 20 people in 1.5 years. This was kind of a struggle. And basically what we do is we just want to help teachers teach. And the 2 co-founders were Janneke and Martin back in the days. But the thing is, right, we started with something, but you just don't easily find the product market fit. It's not just you think of an idea and get it out there. This actually is the biggest problem and the biggest challenge of getting something alive. And everybody knows it, who started it. So in 2015, this is basically what was our dream. Our dream was we want to bring the internet in the classroom. So the biggest book in the world is there and kids can learn. So every teacher, yeah. And the teacher just went on with the daily job. Took us years and years and hours in the back of the classroom learning and finding out where we can actually add value. So right now, we basically say, hey, we help you teach better, engage your students more, and save you some time. And that kind of helped. But again, it took us 4 years. So 4 years to find a product market fit. That takes a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of endurance to get it out there, right? But then, okay, yeah, product market fit, now what, right? Investors are lining up and saying, okay, now grow fast, scale up, you should be a scale up. what just happened, right? A lot of stuff happened, and now you're here. But, right? You had an idea. Then there's Wild West, and you just grow and build and you create technology and clients and contracts and legal stuff, and everything is, and all of a sudden, holy shit, okay, there's a company. In 4 years, right? So, Wild West. It's actually Wild West. And then, if you learn it, right, this is the process. Oh, okay, scale and build companies, scale. Oh, wait, of course, yeah, we still have a company and we have daily jobs and there's teachers using us every day. And, oh, by the way, we also need to clean up. So, what we are doing right now, and one of our tech challenges right now, is we need to look behind us and see the mess of 4 years of Wild West. Which was needed, which was required, was exactly what you need to do to build your company. But there's more to it, and that's a challenge too. That's why scaling in this phase is so hard. And I'm a little jealous on what Relive. Your technology is awesome, but it's also one thing you can scale. And I'll show you later on that our product is not as simple as that. So we need to work on that. So a little on timeline. We were founded in 2015. Over here, the letters are quite small. I can fix that. Basically, it took us 2 years to have our first product market fit kind of feel and sell our first contracts. Our first investment, about 350k, was in 2018. So it took us 3 years before the first actual VC stepped in. Before that, Q42 funded us in the first round. And then you see us growing. Right now we have about 150k MRR. MRR is monthly recurring revenue. Tim was always joking. When I was pitching at the VC, it was 2018, they asked, what's your MRR? And I said, what is that? So they really started laughing, but they saw our numbers and said, that's your MRR, and that's okay. So okay, then we started. But then we only had 10k MRR. So 10k a month earnings, which is nothing. So they like, but we were really proud on our product, but they saw what we could do. Right now, we were aiming for the next 5 years to grow quite further. So what's LessonUp? You can search and find lessons. You can create lessons. So this is a teacher creating a lesson about the globalization in the Middle East, and teachers share it with each other. So it's kind of like a big global community of teachers helping each other out. And then you can teach it in the classroom interactively. So you'll use it on the digital screen or send it out as homework or test. It's not the case, not interesting right now. Our tech stack. This is our tech stack. Sadly enough, it's not TLAs anymore, like it used to be. It's all longer terms right now, like Kubernetes, and it used to be all 3-letter abbreviations. And to summarize, technology-wise, this is how we roll. There's teachers and students. They have servers, they do work for them. There's a lot of database doing work. There's background work, and there's Firebase helping us out somewhere. How hard can it be, right? Okay, so I was thinking, what would make the most sense to share today with all of you, right? So this is about scaling and technology. So we just thought, let's share some of our learnings, some of our failures, those are always the most fun, and also some of our cunning plans, because we know what we want to do, but we don't know how to do some things. And there's a lot of smart people in the room, so I would love later on with a beer talk about how we can solve the challenges ahead. So, this is a good failure of a startup, right? In the Wild West phase, we have a data model where we store our users, our data, our lessons, and we were finding out what should be what, and after 5 years of that kind of mayhem, our data model is like, okay, where's this field for? I think we use it, but where? Yeah, there might be still users still connected to this property or stuff like that, so Tim and I have discussions like that, and shit, we should have defined a better definition of a data model so we know what's obsolete or not, right? And we still have nightmares on this, right, Tim? And the thing is, it's real users. It's not, right? There's users there, so if we just change something, somebody's calling, hey, what's up with my name, right? Oh, yeah, oh, didn't know we were using the property somewhere. So way too much free form, and I wish we did not do that from day one and thought about that earlier. But now the big one, our dev stack. Holy shit. So we're looking back. after 4 or 5 years of finding the fit, and we look at how we are rolling, how we're developing, how everything is lined up, like everything is built up as a prototype, running and finding out what works, and now it takes us ages to have a new engineer zoom in the team. It takes us ages to making sure what we change here actually is a safe change. And this sounds familiar to a lot of engineers, but this hurts. This hurts a lot. Right? There's a lot of stuff to be done on architecture, on testability, but also there's all code in there that we don't use anymore, but people are still making sure it's still valid. We should not have to be able to do that. So we're right now thinking of a blueprint for the future architecture and how to do this well. But this hurts. So a typical question in our team is, okay, if we find 40 engineers that can start on Monday, can we align them? Today, we cannot. It takes us a month for an engineer to be somewhat productive, and I'm ashamed of that. So hi, I'm Kars, and it takes us a month to have an engineer. Okay, another technical one. We still have a Mongo database there, which is an awesome database. I sometimes about 1,000 transactions a second, but it's in there, it's a single point of failure, and everything, we write something to the database, the delta of the change is shared to the next database, but also to all of our interactive service. And it works for now, but we know it's going to break at some point in the future. We don't know exactly when, but we know it will. And we know we have another problem, we will be cross-continent, so there will be multiple continents aligned like this. The data going back and forth will grow tremendously. So, any thoughts on that, please? No, we know what to do, but this is one of our challenges, of course, ahead of us. This is not basically about technology, but it might be interesting to share with you what we learned here. We want to be way more data-driven than ever. So everything we build, think of, or we will want to validate it, to see if it actually works. And if you release something, does it actually improve the experience for our users and the traction and activity? So you need to measure everything. So to all you who are not in this phase yet, store the data, store all the actions people do on clean and don't throw it away, keep it. And what we do right now, we store everything in BigQuery and use Metabase that's an open source system where other people can grind into chalk up charts and analytics and stuff like that. So it separates concerns. So the engineering team can go forward and the data team can go forward on their own. This is actually a good find. Okay, this was one in 2019, and that's the other team helped us building this in 2019. We were basically having a scaling problem, so some of our real-time connectivity and real-time game engines, we moved to Firebase. That was good, not much, no hassle on hosting, it scales, and it gave us at least 3 more years of scaling time. But right now we already feel we are reaching the next endpoint, so to say. So the bad thing is really hard to see how things work actually and to see where are things going wrong, if there are some things going wrong. You cannot do everything, you cannot control everything, it's a hosted interactive database. And so what we know, we need to re-architecture this again. And 3 years back, we built everything from scratch, migrated everything over. We're 3 years further, we need to rebuild everything again. So, personal learnings, there's a lot. But I want to show you 2 things, and I hope you take that with you in your journey as growing in a company. One, the Wild Wild West, right, I mentioned before. It's part of the game. You cannot not have it. It's there. It's part of your learning, it's part of your product, it's part of your product fit, find. You need to be there. It's going to be mayhem. If you do everything precisely for scale, you're too slow finding your fit. So you need to be flexible. And at some point, you need to embrace that period and say it's all okay, and stop being Wild West and change. But what I've learned is, hey, this is what we signed up for. Let's build something awesome, let's find out what works, and if it works, accept that there's work to be done, and do that, and enjoy it. There's no guilt. It's just a ride, it's an adventure. And that's what I've learned, right? At some point, it's like, what did we do wrong? Didn't do anything wrong. We worked really hard trying something out, and now we need to fix things because now we are here and we know things we now know will be solid and not change anymore. And what I learned personally is that once you have a company that becomes bigger, investors, with a lot of people, want you to grow like hell. Fast grow, and everything, the entire business charts are charted up like, okay, there should be sales and there should be marketing, the entire tree is there. And then you look at it, like, okay, yeah. And I challenge you, there's always one thing missing, or almost, most of the time there's one thing missing, and that's the actual daily operation. There's no thing in there like keep processing stuff for your clients. Yeah, somewhere between IT and somewhere, but wait a second, isn't that what we wanted? Isn't that what we're building? There should be an extra one there. It's just like every day make the teacher in our case shine and smile. And that's another case, it's customer success. So really well support content and the engines behind it actually delivering. So that's what I learned, like, hey, that's all those routes is all about growth. But I feel like one teacher having a great experience in front of a classroom, that's awesome. That's one. That's after that you can talk about growth. And otherwise I think you will get a hollow company. So our challenge is to wrap up. We need to scale again 100 times. And that's a lot. That's a lot, but I think it's doable technology-wise, but it's also something that is going to happen. We also found a product fit that can grow organically. We need to follow the route that we feel is possible. In 5 years, it's not 2, but 5, we want to grow 100 times, and it's doable. But it means a lot of things. Cross-continent, to say one of the technical things, but it means a lot. Our future architecture, we're chalking it up, we brainstorm about it, and I ask you to think with the drinks later on. Let's talk about it, your ideas, how can we move forward, what approaches did you learn from other companies? And the challenge is, we should be able to add new engineers faster and easier in our team. And that takes a lot of time, changing our tech stack, but also other things to be able to do that. And data-driven, I mentioned before, really working on a data-driven rhythm is essential. But it's not just the technology. One of the hardest things we find is actually wanting to look at the data and not just releasing a feature, say like, yeah, and build a new one. But actually get it in your daily rhythm and system, like, did it work? Are we actually helping people? So everything we build, we should validate, test, and measure. And it's just hard. So, to dive a little bit more in the tech of the future for us, we have about 1 million WebSockets at the same time on messaging and students and teachers connected together. We need some kind of global database, cross-continent. We need to deploy every day and change and measure. At some point in time, 100,000 real-time games at the same time need to be there without one message lost. And we need to migrate to a new blueprint architecture without stopping what we have, so we need to do it step by step. So it's about microservices, lambdas, gateways, sockets, dynamos, stuff like that. So everybody who's interested in stuff like this, talk, come with us, or see our job openings. So the main thing for the future, right, is what could possibly go wrong. So let's talk later with a beer and learn from each other. Thanks. Any questions?
You worried about getting the engineers started. Are you worried about getting them in?
No, we have Kelly and Paula. No, of course that's hard too. That's a lot of work, but you know, even if we get them in, it just takes too long, complex, and the job can be way more fun if it's safer for an engineer to know what I'm doing here is just only affecting this kind of part of the area of the technology. So, and right now it's too complex. It's scary. Yeah. So that onboarding part and the threshold for people getting in and getting up to speed is way too long. Yeah. But we find new people we want to find people more and faster, but it's there. But then, right, we need to be able to get them in and get them productive and making beautiful shit. Yeah.
Question about the data-driven approach.
Yeah.
I've experienced that too in the scale-up once, and we had a database which nobody understood. Then we did some data-driven tools, and then we had graphs which nobody understood. So how did you solve the problem?
Of course. Can you say last
First we had data in a database that nobody could work with. Then we had them all in the graphs, but still nobody could work with because people didn't understand which fields were meaning what, or didn't know what was included in the specific field. Right? Did you have this kind of issues?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Big man. Yeah. It takes a lot of time indeed to just find the core data points you actually need. So we started with storing a lot of data. All might be of interest. And then, of course, because your product changes and your beliefs change, all the data, the value of the data changes. So then, one action, so user does something, had like 100 properties. Then we realized, so we changed it to 5. And that's like, what you're doing, like start the lesson, the ID of the lesson, ID of the user, and the slide, and the time, and that's it. And we saw that gave us way more insight. So, and we made sure that is actually correct. So if there were false ones in there, we wrote scripts to get it out. So we have the real ones, and that helped us. And then there must be someone basically checking daily that it's still running, it's the right stuff, and if there's an error, fix it. So you need to spend time on your engineers to dive back into something that feels a bit like yak shaving. Why are we doing this? Well, we can help teachers, but you need to do that. Yeah, but keeping them way simpler then, and don't enrich it, just keep the plain numbers in there, that helped us a lot.
I'm curious, because I know you grew crazily during COVID, or when the pandemic started. What did you learn when you got to a much larger scale that you didn't learn before, with fewer users?
That's an interesting question.
Did the amount of users help you get insights into user patterns or anything like that, or what people need?
Basically, not much in that sense, although it's just hard to build a company with people working remote, and so it's less fun. But the main thing maybe is I learned that it's awesome to build a scalable product, because all of a sudden we could serve 10 times more users with not more people. So it's like, okay, we built something that's bigger than itself, and that's really energizing. But on that sense, like more people, it's just like harder to make everything happy, and there's like customer success. There's a lot of time needed to help them. So there's a lot of extra work there, but it was not like a delta or something.
One more question before we go to Mathijs.
How do you think about sharing lessons? Because Lex is like sharing experience in the outdoors. Do you think teachers are open to share their lessons online?
Yeah, well, one of the things, of course, is that if a teacher creates a lesson, they should be able to share lessons, and they can share lessons, and the lessons are shared anonymously for everybody. So there's kind of like a big repository building up, but it's not working exactly how we want yet. So we have some cunning plans or dreams that we would love to, that a teacher can become more of an actual small publisher on its own, and find a way, build your own, like YouTube has channels. The teachers, let's say the most active teachers should be able to do that. But how we can do that, that would help possibly even start people discussing about their lessons and learning more from each other. But right now, a lesson is just a lesson, you don't know who created it, but you can copy it and use it, so that's useful. Yeah, we're dreaming of something like that, but we don't know exactly how to do that. Yeah. Thanks.
Guys, so crazy busy with Mibo that he didn't have the time to prepare a ton of slides, so he's going to give a short introduction, and then we'll move on to Q&A.
Yeah, so the lessons have to come from the Q&A. I'm just telling what Mibo is and who I am. I'm Mathijs I'm the CTO at Mibo. Benjamin, the co-founder, is over there in the back.
Whoa.
So, Mibo is a social space for remote teams. I do the video, let's see if it works or that I need to give some permission to that video. Yeah, it's working. Okay, so this is a video of Mibo. So in Mibo you join, your webcam is basically your head, and you can join there with your team. For example, every Friday, have some drinks in there, or in the middle of the week, have a coffee moment, socialize, and we're basically the only real alternative for a meeting in real life, as we're doing right here. The special thing about Mibo is that once you come closer to someone, they will sound louder, and when you get away, they will fade away. So you can form groups, talk to a few people, and people over there can have a different conversation, and that really gives the social feel. As you see, we're here in the woods, so it's always a fun environment. You're not in the office, and that really helps people relax and talk about other things than work. So it's pretty nice. One of the things we're working on is a winter wonderland for upcoming Christmas, so you can have your Christmas party in Mibo also with your team. So stuff we are working on, I don't know what features you're working on, scaling service, etc. We're building Ferris wheels, Christmas trees, gifts with fun things in them. That's the stuff that keeps us busy. And then selling it, of course, so it's also.
But does the Ferris wheel scale?
It does scale. Yeah. you can scale it up very big also in the world. That's all possible. So yeah, we all built this with, this world is in Unity, and there's also a lot of multiplayer video conferencing stuff involved. Basically we're a game with a video conference, and also all the tooling you need around that with the Vue.js website and backend. So we're working on that with an amazing team of, well, these are 7 people, but we're now 8 people, am I counting correctly? Yeah. Because a designer also joined us, we're looking for more developers, so always welcome if you want to join us, we have also more jobs. So that's basically it. Any questions on what Mibo is, or anything I can explain before we go to the Q&A with all 3 of us?
I know Mibo well. Is it an issue that you need to have different islands or different buildings quickly, or do people are fine with the same environment?
So we have a couple of different environments. So here we are on the tropical island, you saw the woods, we have the winter wonderland, etc. People like to use different environments for different things. And we're also really experimenting with what works well, what do people do in different settings, etc. So that's also an exploration we're in the middle of, basically, to see what works best. But we do feel some variation is nice, not always being in the same place. But you also see that once you're in and you're talking, then you're basically just surrounded by your environment, and then you're in the conversation. That's the most important part. If you try to spark a conversation between team members, you should talk about something that you wouldn't talk about in a Zoom or a Google Meet, for example.
What kind of concurrent users did you have at peak times? So how many users at the same time?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think right before I joined, we had Christmas parties. I think that's the busiest moment we ever experienced right now. It was you rebooting servers, etc., trying to keep everything alive.
It was 1,500.
1,500 simultaneous. Yeah. So
And is Friday the busiest day today?
Well, we're getting more and more international, so it's kind of. I think.
Yeah. So no, it's for me.
Balancing out.
Yeah, balancing out a little bit, but you still see that Thursday, Friday drinks is a peak moment. Yeah. So I'd rather deploy on Monday than on Thursday or Friday.
That's a rule.
Exactly.
Hi. Are people using it for other purposes than just for work?
Yeah, we all, especially during COVID, we've seen also a lot of families just using Mibo to have a little bit of fun and talking with each other. And we've seen a lot of uses. So our main use case, and what we're focusing on now, is the social work thing. But we've also seen workshops in it, or meetings, even people training groups of CEOs, for example. So we have a trainer that invite CTOs over into a world like this and then sit in groups, do a little training. So we've seen a lot of use cases.
Cool.
People are really creative with what you can do inside the world.
What was the biggest scaling issue you had up till now?
The conferencing part. So we're running on Jitsi, and we needed to scale that. So I was already saying, like Benjamin had to restart all the servers and keeping things alive during Christmas. That was the hardest part, I think.
From my understanding, that's the distribution of video streams?
Yeah, so it's receiving the video streams and then re-encoding if needed, and then sending it back, etc. And that part is quite comprehensive. We found a good partner that helps us with scaling it now, so that gives some peace of mind, but that's really hard. It's also complex service that you don't write yourself, so you're basically running someone else's software and then it's crashing and you don't know exactly what the problem is. You can also easily fix it. So that was the hardest part. Yeah. You want to go over to the Q&A?
Well, no, I mean, we have more questions for you, but I thought I'll also just ask Lex and Kars over. So I'll get you guys some bar stools.
And the beer.
And the beer, well, not a beer yet. And
We have to earn it.
thought it'd be useful to get a quick show of hands to know who here is a developer. Couple. And who's into product or other stuff? And then who's everybody else? Good. What do you do?
I actually am transitioning from just Excel, VBA to data science.
Oh yeah.
But I have like Python, R, SQL in my backpack.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a mixture of everything. I'm a bit of a fake back. I don't know how you say that in
What?
English. Out of sync with the normal
Oh,
career
Oh
path,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah.
And I was also just curious, who is actually at a startup right now? Tim?
Scale up,
Or
start.
Scale Up?
I'll
Okay.
start.
Is that a Scale Up?
We're way beyond the startup phase.
What do you have to say?
Let's
get it.
A couple of Scale Ups. Then I had a question I wanted to actually. Oh yeah. Oh. Yeah, so one thing I want to say that you should repeat the question because then we can actually hear it on the recording. So I had a question for all of you, which is what did you wish you knew a year ago? I'll start with Mathijs because
Yeah, a year ago. That's a long time ago in startup land. But, so a year ago, yeah, I like beer, thank you. Well, I think the biggest challenge for us was we're riding a COVID wave, and we basically started during COVID also, so it was really unclear, like, okay, are we a temporary COVID success? We didn't believe that, but how much of the users will go away once they can get back to the office, etc. And that made it really hard to analyze our data, find out, do we already have a product market fit, or do we still need to work on that? So that made it more clear, so I just put like, if we could know a year ago who were the hardcore users that we should have interviewed back then already, and we just could have gone faster. It was impossible to solve, but that would have really helped us.
Yeah, I think for us, for me, I would say I would have started to grow the tech team more solidly and hire more faster than already. So we were building the company and the growth and focusing on the investment numbers too. But I would say maybe in parallel we forgot a little bit to scale the tech team because I did not understand well enough, I think, how much work it is to get the Wild West out there. It's just way more than you think and you need more people for that. So I would say, if I were to say something to myself, I would say focus on that more, build that team bigger, make that bigger than we did right now because we're a little bit behind that.
yeah. Did your code as much of a mess as LessonUp? question for Lex?
I think so. No clue, but I do know that we spend a lot of time on scalability and on making sure that everything scales and that we don't need to worry, or at least need to worry as less as possible about having it up and running, so that 95% of the team time is spent on building new stuff and learning and iterating and developing new features. That's something we always spend a lot of time in. I think at our lowest we spend 1 day a week on maintenance, and now it's way less. That requires a lot of effort. Yeah. And on the learnings part, I think there's 2 of them. One, I would like it a lot a year ago to know how much work fundraising is, because I'm a year in right now. So it would have been nice to know. But I think the more scaling thing that really, it's a recent realization. It helped us forward a lot. Is that you need to connect strategies within the leadership team. That sounds a bit vague, but we had a product guy who had awesome initiatives and strategies, and he wanted to hire a lot of guys to come and help us build that product. But the rest of the company wasn't really paying attention to it, so we didn't really also make those hires or set us up for success to really make those hires. That creates a lot of tension, and we've just that surfaced. We know it now, and now we're scaling much faster because of it. It helps back a bit.
Anybody else have a question?
I have a question for all of you. How do you decide what's the most important thing to work on?
Yeah. How do you know which mountain to climb?
Shout it loud.
Yeah, so which mountain to climb, what's the most important thing to work on? That's the $1 million question. It has always been a huge focus for us, so we're doing a lot of no's, and there's a lot of things that people want to put in backlogs that we don't do. I think the best way, so it's taking us a long time. It's taking us almost 4 years to get to a process where we are right now, and that's basically everything starts with talking to users. So we do a lot of user interviews, a lot of talking to them also before we have a feature in mind. We just ask them, okay, what do you expect from Relive, and what do you expect if you go out, and what do you need help with, what's missing for you, and then we digest that, and that gives us some sense of direction, and that then translates into roadmap, into things we are starting to iterate and test and build and put live if they're good enough.
Yeah, indeed. This is the hard one, indeed. For us, we try to connect everything we want to do to how many users are we reaching here and how much impact it will have to their activity and the activity we want to see. So basically, what and how are we teachers helping with this actually on the long term, strategically, structural. So we try to connect to that, but it's really hard. But that actually is something we connect everything to. And in the company we found something that helped us a lot, and that was once there is a teacher active, and it means like every month it's just teaching with LessonUp, they will, in the end of the day, start paying, so 60-something% will be a paying customer. So we just decided everything we do should be focusing on activity, so make the teacher be a monthly active user and make him happy and make it, let's say, an influencing teacher so that it's sharing stuff with others. And so we stopped thinking about the conversion for now, just focusing on activity alone, and that helps a lot too. And sometimes we have just an awesome idea and we just want to build it because it's awesome or it has some PR value or just think that it needs to be done, otherwise Tim will say, I'll build it anyways. So some things you just need to build without any clue because it's sometimes are the gems, the diamonds that are in the product and it makes fun in the team. So we try not to discuss too much about it. Just be wise and business-wise on the real scale where you want to go to, and sometimes just allow yourself some fun and some creativity and not well thought through, and kind of try to balance that.
Nice.
Yeah, so we with Mibo are really in the startup phase. So I think we're really in an earlier phase than the other two companies. But what we so it is really hard, first of all, to know if you're working on the correct thing. But then talking to users really helps. Looking at your data, but it will not, especially in our phase, it's not always clear. So you really talk about the North Star metric that you can set, like, okay, let's get the users active. We also try to set that, but it also changes from time to time still. So then we're measuring it and we're seeing not enough results, and then we realize, okay, we need to adjust it a little bit. So I think it's also about talking to users, listening, looking at the data, then choosing something, going for that really hard and strong, doing everything you can, and keep measuring so that you will realize, like, okay, this is not exactly the right thing, we should adjust a little bit. And that's what we're trying to do as quickly as possible, basically. So set a goal, try to find product market fit in a certain area, and also go all in, so that if you fail fast and you can retry. You still have money and time to go for another group or adjust your goals. But I think talking to users and getting that data in place also really helped us. And you also talked about capturing those events, getting the data in so that you can do a measurement, because you will look at the data and then realize, this is not it, and then you have questions and you want to answer that questions from the data immediately. So that also really helps. So that was something that was nice once it was in place. It's really hard to get there.
So what's the hypothesis that you killed quickly?
An hypothesis.
What was like great and you thought, this is going to be our product market fit, it's going to be great, and then you discovered that is not at all what it was going to be?
Yeah, okay, so one thing we released not too long ago was like single use rooms. So we thought like, people are also often have one-off meetings. So maybe it's nice to just create a Mibo room for one time. And we're seeing that doesn't really pick up. It also creates confusion. We don't explain it that great. So that's one thing we quickly realized, okay, this is not working. But then the question is, okay, what should you do? So now we're adjusting to that and revisiting that. So that's one of the things that we're seeing that doesn't pick up as well as we have hoped.
How do you balance user requests that conflict with your product vision or strategy? So maybe for Relive, let's say people say, hey, I want to log my daily car rides and my work, which is definitely not an outdoor activity, and I want to have the same video. But let's say 1,000 people lost that feature. How do you balance that against your
Yeah, that's a good one. So you have to fix it somewhere. You have to get some like vision on the world, and if it doesn't fit, then we don't do it. So it's we've become very strict at it, and that's because we learn from experience. Because 2 years ago we would have done it, and then you have 1,000 happy users, but those users asking you for extra stuff, in our experience, they keep on asking for extra stuff, and most of the time it's more of the same or slight tweaks. So we see it going on, but we don't. If it doesn't fit the strategy and the roadmap that falls from the strategy, we usually park it, because there's a lot of demand coming in for all kinds of weird stuff. If you look, the Kars is one. People ask us for really video of climbing activities a lot, which is a bit weird because it's vertical. It's usually more of the same and more. So we show a bit of data, so we show an elevation profile, and then want more data and more statistics on and stuff like that. There's a place where we can show it, but usually it's not working in the video. Because when we used to test those things, we used to A/B test them, and then we see at scale that they don't really add to the experience. They make some active users a bit more active, but that's not really a gain.
And what if this is the thing that makes your growth targets for this year work? Do you still not do it, or do you?
Yeah, little hackers never off the table. So yeah, no. Of course, if there's a really quick win, then you can sometimes squeeze something in. So we have, like at the end of the year, we usually do a bit more promotional stuff, and then there's also time for the team to either clean up some debt or to just get some things in that they really want, stuff like that. But
usually we're quite strict there.
Kars, any crazy things that teachers want and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, there's tons of requests, so what we try to do is just listen and see them as inspiration, that's one. If it's convenience or bugs or stuff like that, of course, we try to get it out there and just make it more focused, but it really aligns to what we really want to achieve. And that's I think the gift when you decide, not that you have product market fit, so you say like, no, this is what we do, and we're going to stick to that. So that's why we dare to not listen sometimes. And a few years back, indeed, we didn't dare to because we know like, yeah, we don't know exactly. Maybe we are this, right? So you're kind of in that search. So yeah, let me think of strange things. No, not many strange things. It's just like a lot of people just ask questions, but they won't help structurally. So yeah, nice for now, and then there's one person happy with an extra button or something. But the main rhythm is something else, and that's all. You can quite easily check that with data. But right now we quite know what we need to be done, so there's our roadmap is clear. It's just a lot of work, and we need to do that, and mainly listen to daily obstructions or something like our product is used daily by teachers in their daily job, as we all use Slack and email and stuff. Use teachers use LessonUp, so we should listen more to just those daily obstructions where we can just make life more comfortable. Yeah. So yeah, it's a daily open feel, and of course try to use it yourself and you feel it yourself too. But but not really strange questions or anything.
Yeah, I think the only thing I have to add is that I also try to listen and ask the user, okay, what kind of user is this? So how does this user use our product? So especially during COVID, I also did a lot of interviews, and then the first thing I tried is to get to know is, okay, how are you using your product? Why are you using that? And what will happen if COVID goes away? And then often the interview started with someone saying like, yeah, we always go to like the pub on Fridays and we can do that. But as soon as the pub opens, I want to get back there. And I already know, okay, there's nothing of value basically in this. Because every feature request won't keep you into Mibo, it's just up and until you can get back to that pub. So it's also getting to know that user and then adjusting the value of that user for our company also a little bit. That's also an important thing, I think. That's a hard thing, because often there's something shiny in that feature. Think, oh, maybe this is it. So maybe you should try it.
Any other questions?
I have one. When looking for an investor, except for the big bag of money, what are you looking for?
So, what I really appreciate about our current investor is that they are a good balance between hands-off and letting us do our thing, just giving us the money and we run the show, basically. But they are there for advice, so we can always call them, and when we have a hard problem or something that think, oh, maybe another startup did also encounter this, can you connect us to it, then they are there and they will help us out. I think that's really valuable. And you don't want an investor that is really involved all the time in steering your company or so hands-off that you don't get any value beyond the money, I think. So that would be something that I would look for.
Yeah, for LessonUp, we a few years back, P Capital joined. We were proactively searching for a VC. Back then, not for the reason of money, because we only raised 350K, but we wanted a VC DNA, the growth DNA, and the advice, and the strict advice. So we're looking for a company that actually has some passion for what we did, but can help us make the next step and help us make the decisions. Me and our entire team did not know how to do that. How do you hire new senior personnel, whatever we did not do before in this company? So that's new. So we focused on that DNA, and we are raising again for the next quarter, and that will be an investor for a total different reason, and that's play along with the big guys. So we will, at some point in time, we will challenge the big companies in the US our big competitors, and that's going to be a serious thing. And we need an investor that can play that game and likes that game and know the legal game in the US and all around the world. So that must be some kind of big US VC or something alike. So that's a different reason. So the first role is still there. That's our angel investor. We love it. And the next role is a different one again. Yeah. But money is definitely secondary. Yeah.
For us, it's the other way around. so far at least. So for us, it was primary money, but now I think you are right. So it's complementary knowledge. So there's a lot of stuff we're doing for the first time. If you're taking big bets for the first time, then they might be a bit scary and you won't take them. So, for instance, putting a lot of resources onto a new direction or making a big hire, that's something that if you make that decision for the first time, you'll probably doubt it a few times. And if then there's someone who has seen it before, it tells you probably the right choice, and if not, then we'll start over. Then you have a bit of a backing up, like incredible backup, and I think that's important. For us, so as I mentioned before, almost added a year. I think the most important thing next to money is help with spending the money. So we're growing organically at the moment, so we haven't spent any cent at marketing so far. But in order to really scale up our growth, we will need to do that. A lot of spend, probably, a lot of trial and error, probably a lot of error in the beginning. That's where you need some help and some conviction.
Yes, I've got a question more related to the people side of scaling up. So what would be an advice for another startup to scale up? For example, like organizing the teams within the company. Any advice on that? How to create effective teams or stuff like that?
Yeah. So the question is, how do you scale up the team? I think so. We're in the middle of this, and this is a hot topic at Relive because I think we've made some errors in the beginning, up until 2 months ago. Where you just put people in the team and you think, okay, they'll figure it out. They probably like the challenge, but I think that what we noticed that not a lot of people like the feeling to be in the fog, to be swimming too much, so they need guidance and they need to know that they're doing the right thing. So just as I explained, what I'm looking for in a VC, someone that tells you, okay, you're doing the right thing, with a bit of guidance. That's important for, I think, a team in a fast-moving organization, for everyone to feel at home, feel a bit safe. That's something you really need, and that I think starts with starting with hiring experienced people who can have that role within their own teams. So those are usually the expensive hires and the ones that won't produce anything directly on the day after. So that's something you will hold off. We held off on it a long time. As soon as we start doing that more and more, it's paying off in the long run. That's something I have to invest in early on.
Yeah, for me, for us, it's kind of like the same. So hire really, really good people, right? Be impressed and demand yourself to be impressed from your team and build a great team. And if you're in doubt, you feel like working out, directly address it. And for some great people, it might not just be the right time, right place. And maybe a year later, it would have worked, but not now. But fix it. And don't let it be there because nobody's happy then. So my advice would be is focusing on the people takes way more time than you think, and be tremendously precise in what you expect from them. And the thing is, as you say, it's hard to be that, but that's actually what you need to be doing. Say, okay, I want you doing this, and this is the role, and go fetch, and don't settle for less, so to say. Right? In this phase, you need those people on a really high level with a team you can really build on. And maybe something I personally learned, just enjoy the ride, right? It's hard, you have mishires, but it's part of it, and don't be too stressed about it. Just that's part of the deal. It's okay or something. It's also fun to build and find a team for people who actually stick and who actually like and are building the company itself. So it's also just a fun phase where you meet a lot of people and you see the true value of a lot of people, and be really proud of what people are doing.
Yeah, so good points. And I would like to add that from the engineering perspective, if you have engineering teams, if you scale up and you get multiple engineering teams, then you have to really be aware that the technical architecture and the structure of your teams need to align. If you don't do that, the architecture will align with the teams eventually, and it will not be in a nice way. because it will just happen. Because as a team, you feel responsible for a certain part of the application, and you will take care of that. And then there are touch points between the other teams, and it will also be represented in the code base. And that, I think it really helps if you do that deliberately and not try to shuffle teams and then expect it all to work with the code base you have. I think that's an important one to take into mind.
I'll just do 2 more questions, but I also thought maybe you guys have a question for each other. Or unless there's like burning questions, so from you.
Oh, I don't have a question actually. For me, it's like I want to talk more about the next steps we are facing, and that's mostly with pen and paper or diving into problems or ideas. I think a question for you is you aim at we want 100 million users, right? So that's a small, no, it's a big country even. Yeah. What's driving you behind this success, right? You build a beautiful company. It's tremendously impressive what you already have there. But what's driving you now, right? Because it's already there. You can sell it if you want, and you can buy an island or whatever. Non-virtual, no offense. But what's driving you next to that, right? So 100 million users, and then what's? There's more to it than this, I guess. So when would you be next to that extremely proud of your team yourself?
Yeah, that's, no. So I think from what we're seeing right now and the connection, or just simple. 1 in every so many users, after they find out about Relive, they send us an email, and it still happens today, and they tell us this is amazing. I can finally understand what my relative who's living on the other side of the country, on the other side of the earth, what he's doing. Or I can finally see my husband, he leaves with his bike at 9 in the morning and he comes back at 1, and I can finally understand and relate to what he's doing. So that's basically extrinsic motivation. So we see that there is a clear need and that we really can improve people's life by getting them outdoors more often. That's really nice.
But sick is kind of like the connection of people you bring to.
Yeah, it's a big impact. So it's not for as many people as we want by now. But I think if we build the right things, we're getting pretty far. So that's with my extrinsic motivator, but there's also an intrinsic one that I think running a startup, which is becoming a scale-up, which hopefully moves on. That's the best job ever. And every day is cool, and I can never know how my work and how real it looks like 6 months from now. So it's always a challenge, and it's really nice to be guiding that. So those are the 2 motivators, and that's what made me, it got comfortable at one point, so then we were at 10 million users, and we were like, okay, what's next? And I think let's add 0, and we start from scratch.
And I think this is a great time to go drink some beers, maybe. For everybody who's interested, the next Hitchhiker Guide 2 is going to be about mobile app development. Completely different topic, but useful. Join us on Meetup if you want to stay up to date, if you haven't done that already. And thanks all for being here. And please applause. And I think Chris will be manning the bar.